Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me today at HR Owen Ferrari London to share with you the full specification for my upcoming Ferrari SF90 Stradale. It is a car I'm very excited about. It will be arriving next year, but I have chosen now all of the options. It's my first ever new Ferrari and the process is incredibly involving. We've been through a number of different iterations here at the Atelier, and today I'm going to be able to share with you exactly what I've chosen. We'll take a look as well at the SF90 Assetto Fiorano behind me, but go through the different samples, the paint color, the interior options, some of the bespoke details that I've chosen as well, really at the start of this journey through to production and delivery next year and the adventures ahead. Having owned two Ferraris before, I bought them both as pre-owned cars. This is a completely different experience, starting from the beginning, bringing you along as well. So let's head through and go and take a look then at the spec I've chosen for the SF90 Stradale. This particular SF90 is quite different to what I've chosen. This is in Nero Daytona with the standard wheel option, but with the Assetto Fiorano. That's the Fiorano pack, which makes it more at home on the track. Now, despite the fact that it has 1,000 horsepower from the 4-litre twin-turbo V8 with the electric motors, I'm actually treating it more like the name suggests, Stradale, meaning road, a road car, and that's what you'll see when we go through the specification in a moment. But there are quite a few things about this that are very different to what I'm opting for. So I'll share you more of those comparisons just afterwards. Also here at the Atelier in central London, we have the F8 Tributo in a more traditional red with the contrast of the black roof. I'm going to be going bright. It is a supercar after all. So let's head through towards the Atelier room to go through some of these options and show you the samples. It's very special to head through here then, past the lounge, where we have plenty of memorabilia on display, from model cars and steering wheels to luggage and books, to come and visit the Atelier, where customers spec their new Ferraris. We've got the seat variations, some of the different leathers and Alcantaras, some of the wheel choices, and this is where I have spent a number of hours over a few different visits to build the final configuration that I'm going to show you very shortly. Now, I want to explain some of the different elements of this, from the paint color to the interior choices and some of the reasoning behind them. Now, starting with the paint color, you might know that my two previous Ferraris were both blue. The FF was Blue Le Mans, the GTC4 Lusso was Blue Tour de France. For this car, I am again going blue. I seem to love my blue Ferraris, and the color that I have chosen is Blu Elettrico. This is a stunning extra range dual layer paint color. I want to lift down the paint sample to show it to you under the light. It is truly stunning, from the brighter, literally electric blues that you see to some of the darker navy shadows as it goes over the curves. It has become a more famous color recently. It's one I've seen a number of times, and every time I see a car in Blu Elettrico, I absolutely love it. So it had to be this choice. In fact, when I first played with the configurator for the SF90 2 years ago, Blu Elettrico was where I started. Now, I want to complement that with a contrasting interior, a mixture of two different colors. The main standout color is Sabbia, sand, a mix of the leather and the Alcantara. And I'm going to lift down these samples so we can build up the spec here, and you can see what all of the different samples look like. But that light interior, a more classical interior. My car is not going to have the Assetto Fiorano pack. It is a car, as the name suggests, Stradale, that I want to drive on the road, hence some of my options. And then the second color for the interior is actually going to be Blue Sterling. So we'll have the navy blue with the light colored interior, reminiscent of my original Ferrari FF specification. You might remember that against the Blue Le Mans. That was actually in crema and blue scuro, but this is going to be quite the configuration. It's a mixture, as I said, of a more classical interior with a lot of unique touches in a car with the style seats, the more comfortable road-going seats as well. This is a car that I want to drive. It might have 1,000 horsepower, but I want to drive it in some cases as a daily supercar, if I can say that. That's how I've enjoyed it on the different outings I've had so far, hence what led me to going with Blu Elettrico, the Sabbia and Blu Sterling interior. But I want to show you now through the full specification, all of the different options. So we'll be joined by Jonathan from HR Owen Ferrari London to go through it in detail.
Welcome back, Tim, to HR Owen Ferrari London. And without further ado, here's your SF90 specification.
We've gone through all of the options. Of course, we had a go at configuring aroma, so I had a bit of a feel for how this process worked.
You did, exactly, which I feel like was a really good trial run for you to explore some of the different bespoke options that you can do with Ferrari. Obviously this time a little bit more special because it's your own car.
And we've gone through many different options, lots of bespoke details. I think, while the basics are right here in front of us, there's clearly a lot more to it.
There is. I mean, this is always sort of the core, and then really build the car around this. So we always try to get that colour combination between the exterior and the interior nailed, and once we've got that, we can start to add sort of some of the finer details that really sort of signify your car as something a bit more individual to your tastes.
I think this is probably what we should have a run through now, if that's all right.
Of course,
take a seat
yeah.
and kind of go through some of these different options that have built up into this, because you have a very, very cool system here whereby you control where all the magic happens.
Yes.
And we get to try all of these different options. Now, from the exterior, and some people will love this, some people might not in the modern era, I've gone for the full silver forged wheels.
You have, which I agree with you. I do think I think they just go with the paint. You know, we've gone for overall quite a sort of contemporary, but not too over the top specification in terms of aggressiveness. And I think the silver wheels with the yellow brake calipers and that lovely Blu Elettrico paint just overall ties in really nicely together.
There are some yellow touches pretty much wherever you looked. We added the Giallo calipers, we've got the yellow center caps on the wheels, we've got the Scuderia Shields. That looks beautiful.
It does. So this particular angle, actually, I think side profile of the SF90, you really see some of those La Ferrari lines coming through the car as well. Particularly, Tim, you've gone for the gloss black painted roof on your car as well.
Yeah.
Something sort of synonymous with the La Ferrari. And from this angle, you can really see that design on this particular forged wheel that's really there to take air pressure out of the wheel arch. So it serves a practical purpose as well as looking rather nice.
It does, and all of the exterior sections then complemented with the visual carbon fibre as well. We've gone for the front splitter, side skirts, the full diffuser, and the air vent.
We have. So we've gone for sort of almost a belt line of carbon fibre around the exterior. So yeah, I mean there isn't much left on the car that you haven't gone for in carbon.
There are a few options, but I'm a bit of a carbon fibre fiend. To me, this is that, as you said, contemporary. I think is the best way to describe it. Look, it's almost a slightly different look for the nature of the car, because this is a 1,000 horsepower car that can lap Fiorano very, very quickly.
It is. There's a bit of an ironic sort of contradiction there, I guess. We've gone for quite an elegant specification, something quite classic on what is really Ferrari's sort of a demonstrator of the latest and greatest technology.
Yeah, well, the reason I didn't opt for Assetto Fiorano is because of the absence of the lifting system with the Assetto Fiorano. I did enjoy driving the Fiorano pack car. It wasn't as firm as I expected that it might have been, but for me I want this to be a bit more usable, and I think the spec really reflects that.
It does, and also, you know, I hope you use the car. The more you use the car, the more enjoyment you'll gather from it. So I think going for a non-AF pack car, in your instance, what you're using the car for, I think is the right call.
For sure, and it looks stunning. It's amazing to see it brought to life out at Fiorano on the display there.
Definitely, yeah, and just, you know, we use Fiorano as a background a lot. Obviously, one for the history that's connected with the brand, but also just because the natural light that Ferrari's very clever configuration process sort of throws onto the paint. To our eye, it gives a truer reflection of the different colour combinations than say, in a sort of studio environment. So this should be a fairly accurate representation of when your car arrives.
It's an unusual one to go through this spec process, because typically when I've spec'd up a car, it's been the exterior that I've spent a lot of time on. But with this, I think we were fairly quickly at the exterior. It's been the interior that we're yet to really get fully into, but that's where we've spent most of the time.
We have, which actually, to be honest, I know the exterior is, you know, obviously you're looking at a lot when you walk up to the car, but let's be honest, the interior is where you're going to be spending all of your time. And that's really where Ferrari's truly bespoke, creative elements come in. You know, there's lots of different leather options, lots of different trim options, and I guess we should start sort of exploring those.
Definitely. Can we take a look then at what we've chosen?
We can. So if we start with sort of a wider view of the overall aesthetic for the interior, just to give the audience, I guess, a first-time view of the overall aesthetic with the Sabbia and the Blu Sterling leather.
So the idea here was to go with the style seat, the specific seat for the SF90, which gives it some of those details, for example, that we've also done out of range as well, doing the Blu Sterling bars and accents within the seat. We've added the blue cavallino, the prancing horse on the headrest, but you introduced that I hadn't seen before, that I'm not sure how to label it, the lower section around the floors and across the armrest.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Tim being Tim, we couldn't just do sort of a standard specification for the interior. So there are, as you sort of alluded to, some special unique touches on this car that aren't maybe going to be on all SF90s. But with regards to that specific lower zone you were talking about, it's an option that you don't see on a lot of SF90s. It is a standard option, and it's basically brings in some of the Sabbia tones to the low half of the interior. So if I change view slightly here, you'll just see it extending from the central tunnel down, almost like a waterfall effect, cascading into the lower carpet zones. And it's just really nice because it just brings a bit of that light that we've got higher into the cabin, lower into the car, and carries on that theme of Sabbia further throughout the cabin, rather than just being two sort of Sabbia seats isolated in the cabin, which I know is something we were trying to avoid.
Absolutely, and one of the things I particularly like looking at this is how we have the mix of the leathers and the Alcantara. So we have the inserts on the door cards around the dash, the pinstripe details you see over the top of the binnacle, all in the Sabbia Alcantara, which we have the sample of just here, which is a perfect match, of course, to the Sabbia leather of the seating area, or then with the Blu Sterling over the top, and a wealth of carbon fibre.
A wealth of carbon fibre. I mean, on your car specifically, we've gone for the carbon fibre driving zone, which is the all-important, the carbon fibre steering wheel and also the gear shift paddles themselves. That's very important in a Ferrari because that is your environment. Ferrari have this philosophy of hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and you need that carbon fibre there and the shift lights. To be honest, with an engine that revs as fast as it does in the SF90, you have to have those shift lights, otherwise you just lose track. And then you've gone one step further beyond that and also gone for the carbon fibre dashboard inserts. You can see those just where it says SF90 Stradale on the centre of the car, and it's effectively the air vents and the upper zone in carbon. Just again, sort of helps make the cabin feel quite contemporary along with the digital display. And then obviously we've got the lovely aluminium gated shifter effects down in the lower cabin as well, which we've deliberately left in silver.
I particularly like that kind of link back to the history, the H pattern. Gearbox, always bright silver on a gated manual.
It's a modern take on part of Ferrari's heritage and history, and I guess that's sort of a good analogy of summing up your entire specification. With sort of, it's a real mix of celebrating the technology and modernity of the SF90 while still keeping an overall classic look to the car, and I think we've done that really well.
And then in terms of other options, technology and that side of things.
Obviously, I know you're a big fan of technology, so we've deliberately gone for the full ADAS package on your car. It's proven quite popular on the SF90.
And that gives you the adaptive cruise, the surround camera system.
Yeah, and also the blind spot assist. So you've got the blind spot monitoring, so effectively you'll have the warning triangles in the wing mirrors. Helpful because the SF90 is quite a wide car, perfectly manageable, but it is quite a wide car, so having those I find really useful when I'm lucky enough to drive our demonstrator. So it's effectively fully loaded from a technology standpoint. You've also gone for the upgraded sound system as well, just because it adds a real layer of sort of clarity to the sound for those longer road trips, which I hope we'll be taking the car on.
For sure, if possible. We've done a few bespoke details inside. We have the seat inserts in Blu Sterling. Those match with the rest of the exterior. We've gone for the door grab handles as well.
We have.
Those will also be in Blu Sterling.
Yeah, so these are options which aren't standard on Ferrari's option list. So Ferrari will always try to, if they can, go above and beyond for their clients. And this is something we have done in your case. So they manage these through something called the Special Requests program. And on your car, that basically corresponds to the stripes insert that you can see on the center of the seats. Ordinarily, those would be in Nero. We've requested those in Blu Sterling leather, so they'll match the rest of the interior. And then also, as you mentioned, the door grab handles, they are displaying in Nero on the configurator, but we've also changed those to Blu Sterling as well.
And we're going to add the blue stitch around the seats.
We are. So you can already see you've got the blue cavalinos, the prancing horses stitched on the headrests. But in addition to that, we've gone for just a stitching line in the same blue stitch around the entire outside of the Sabbia seat. I think it's a nice detail without maybe having to have blue stitching everywhere, which might look a bit odd. Whereas I think this is just a nice small detail that you'll notice, and it will be something really special.
It's going to suit it perfectly. I think these colours are going to work very well on this car.
I think they are. I mean, it's blue, obviously Blu Elettrico, I quite like for the SF90 because, I don't know if you've mentioned already, it's quite a bold colour, but it's also quite modern, which, let's be honest, this is Ferrari's first full electric plug-in hybrid, and is also a demonstrator of what what's possible from the brand at the moment in terms of technology. So I think that's a clever choice. And the Blu Sterling and Sabbia leather, it's actually quite a classic colour combination. So we're bringing sort of an elegant introduction, I guess, to the SF90 cabin.
I hadn't really thought about this, but as you just said, the SF90 is the first series production hybrid Ferrari, following only the LaFerrari, which was limited. So it is quite appropriate to have Blu Elettrico.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. Blu Elettrico works really well. I didn't know if you'd actually noticed that.
I hadn't clicked that until just now.
Yeah, Blu Elettrico with sort of what is, there obviously have been some hybrid models, some Ferrari in the form of the LaFerrari, but really this is the real demonstrator of Ferrari's hybrid technology. So Blu Elettrico on Ferrari's great sort of semi-electric hypercar, I think it works really well.
Yeah, and there are going to be some lovely things. I always like, for example, the cavalinos on the seats. That will be very visible from the exterior of the car, giving you a kind of a little bit of blue as you look in from the exterior as well. And it's a spec that, this is one of the crazy things. There are so many different options and elements you can configure to build this up, to make the spec, that it's amazing to be able to make it so personal. And I think I said from the very beginning, I didn't want to go overkill with it. I wanted to keep it kind of fairly smart.
To be honest, it's very easy to.
Yes.
That is sort of almost, I guess, the curse of having quite so many options to choose from, is that you can spend hours and hours doing this. Whereas I think, whilst this has taken quite a few hours, I guess it's no secret, I feel like we've got a nice mix of some small details that you will notice, and I think will bring you a lot of joy without. It's very easy to overcomplicate things, and it can actually be a detriment of the overall spec, whereas I think this is still very cohesive despite having a few very unique touches. But the Ferrari configuration process, it's a brilliant part of the journey for all of our clients. It's a great fun for me as well, to be honest. And it's something that you can see why people fall in love with just going through this, creating their dream Ferrari.
Absolutely. Well, I can categorically say that it has been the most involving specification process that I have ever done in terms of
me as well.
Being able to build up my perfect spec. So now it'll be a case of seeing as this turns to reality. So thank you very much for all of your help with it so far.
Thank you, Tim, for having the vision to create this car.
Coming back around to this car then, as I said, it is a very different specification to what I've chosen to go for, and I want to show you some of those differences in person, but fundamentally this is the SF90 with the Assetto Fiorano, the Fiorano pack, with the Multimatic dampers, which do mean that you can't opt to have the front nose lifter. Now I intend to use my car, as I said, for more driving out on the roads, hence I want the more comfortable specification, not quite the hardcore firmer ride, also having the ability to lift the low nose should I need to get in and out of garages, to have the more comfortable seats on the inside, although it does mean that I'm not able to opt for this very lovely carbon fibre ducktail spoiler, which is only part of the Assetto Fiorano. This car also does have all of the exterior carbon with that, so the diffuser, the side skirts, the air intakes that I have ordered as well, all of these parts, and the carbon fibre that you have for the spoiler around the front, although it hasn't gone for the dual tone paint. As a no charge cost, you can have that gloss black, the Nero for the roof, and I quite like how that ties in to some of the other areas. For example, having the gloss black back here, which you could order in carbon fibre, but I've gone with keeping it in Nero to match with the roof and a few other areas that you have around the car. I've also chosen not to go for the carbon fibre engine cover because I quite like the traditional Ferrari red engine bay look. Here we've got the standard wheels, the regular wheel option. I've chosen to upgrade those to the lighter forged wheels, but also painted in silver, and I'll have the yellow calipers to give it a more vibrant look, whereas this is quite subtle, you could say, in fact, especially for the Assetto Fiorano configuration. Inside, to show you a bit more of this, Assetto Fiorano gives you more carbon fibre. The satin door cards, where mine are going to be leather, but with the Alcantara inserts. I have gone for the carbon fibre upper areas as well. I've not gone for the carbon tunnel. I want that more comfortable leather feel, along with the more comfortable seats as opposed to the buckets. These are great seats. I had a good day out driving in a car with these. I just prefer the more leather soft seats, we could say. It's more what I want to do with the SF90, despite the fact that it is a 1,000 horsepower car. In fact, let's just go round to the driver's side for a moment, close up the door. Obviously charging at the moment, plugged in, hybrid after all, first series production hybrid Ferrari. Come through here on the driver's side. I have done exactly this with the carbon fibre steering wheel, with the LEDs that you have up top for the shift lights. Always a very nice steering wheel, and you've got those controls that all pivot and point towards the driver. Obviously here we've got the full black Alcantara interior as well, so a very, very different specification, but you can see some of those differences. And believe me, I've been checking out a lot of different SF90s where we've been going through the specification to hone in exactly what I was going to go for. There we more or less have it though, having chosen the spec, having built it up here on the configurator. In fact, that's just outside Enzo's house in my chosen specification. Choosing these colours is a very personal thing, but I've thought about this a lot to build up the spec of my first new Ferrari. And I'm sorry for saying that quite so many times, but I am actually very, very excited about this journey. It's a hugely special opportunity and experience and something to be part of, and there are going to be more things to be able to share along the way as well, leading towards delivery. I think maybe in the second quarter of 2022, just in time for some summer events and activities. We'll have to see what's possible with the car when it does arrive, but it's a big thanks to Jonathan for his time to go through the various different iterations, to go through all of the choices to build up ultimately this specification. I considered perhaps going with a black interior with some yellow piping and stitching to add a more sporty look, you could say, but I wanted to bring, as he said, this contemporary look to it. The Blu Elettrico, a stunning paint colour that I've seen a number of times on different cars, and every time it has stood out and looked amazing, with this interior that links back to the Ferraris that I've had before, and particularly the FF, that mix of the lighter colour, the sand, the Sabbia, bit like the Crema I had with the Blu Sterling as well, to create that separation. And I think this is going to be a stunning car. And of course, these kind of things, specs of cars, are very personal. I'm sure there'll be people who have gone in completely different colours and done it in totally different ways, but this is a car I've been very excited about, the first time going through this process with Ferrari, and what a process it is, what an exciting thing to be part of. And there are going to be more things I know through the journey to be able to share as well as we lead towards the production and ultimately the delivery of the car in these exact colours as per the samples you see here. So a huge thanks to Jonathan, the team here at HR Owen Ferrari London. I cannot wait for this one, and thank you to you guys as well, of course, for your support, for making it all possible. This is the start of a very exciting journey with the SF90 Stradale that I cannot wait to share. So that's it for this time. Thank you for watching as always, guys. I hope you like the spec, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!